between ourselves, that we can love everybody equally. And this is a little introduction of the personalities above. And then, so I'll tell you a little bit about Premvilas Prabhu. His name is Premvilas Prabhu. He's one of the main tree trunks of our Higher Taste Beats program, of this temple, and then the new temple. So there's so much about him. He's a doctor. He goes to this every retreat every year called the Bhaktivedanta Medical Retreat. He runs that, and then he's doing his MBA through the Paris School of Business. And then he's really a standout guy, and he's so smart, but he's also so humble. You can relate to him on a regular basis. And he takes a lot of time out. He's a very busy person, and he takes a lot of. We're so lucky for him to take a little bit of his time to come to share with us about love. So, without further ado, let's give a hand for Premvilas.
Thank you, Hari, for that introduction. That was a little exaggerated introduction. So thank you, Shrestha, for this opportunity. I thought I'll just speak for about 20 minutes, and then maybe some Q&A. So welcome, everyone. I thought I'll give you an introduction today about, you may have seen this picture when you entered the temple. Some of you know what this picture is about. Some of you may not know what this picture is about, right, Kriti? You probably don't know. And Shweta, right? Surbhaya. So, and probably some people in there. I see some new faces. So, you came to the temple, you saw Radha Krishna, but then you may be wondering, who these personalities are. Pillai, do you know who these personalities are?
Not as much as you're going to explain.
That's good. So, also the reason I chose this topic is that, in this picture there are several personalities, but there are 5 main. The one in the center with his arm like this, with the yellow dhoti, that's in the center. His name is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu, and I'll explain to you why he's called Mahaprabhu. Okay. Then to his right are 2 personalities. One with a blue dhoti, right? You see that? He's wearing a garland, and he's dancing in a very graceful way. His name is Sri Nityananda. Nityananda. And then to his right is another personality. He's older. He has a big white beard. Kind of looks like little Santa Claus. He's wearing a white dhoti. His name is Advaita Acharya. Acharya refers to a teacher. His name is Advaita Acharya. And today is his birthday. Today is his appearance day. So that's 3 of them. And then the 4th one, in the picture to the left of Sri Chaitanya, is a personality called Shri Vas. Shri Vas. He was called as Srivas Thakur. Thakur is like an honorary title given to somebody.
You missed Gadadhar. Yeah.
Right. Now I'm coming to it. So that's Srivas.
Give us the colors.
Right. And then Gadadhar Pandit. Rukmini, am I correct that Gadadhar Pandit is in white?
In red.
In red, okay. Gadadhar, that's why you said you missed him. Okay. Gadadhar Pandit is in red. So Srivas Thakur is this, correct? Oh, in the white with the kartals. And Gadadhar Pandit is in red. So there are 5 main personalities, and then you can see all of the people they're singing with drums, and they are chanting, and they're all very excited to see this. Some people in the back have flags and festoons. They have some banners. There are mridangas. Somebody is making garlands, which they are wearing. So that's 5 personalities there. And who are they? What is their relationship to this temple, to Radha and Krishna? And how come their picture is so prominently displayed? I'm sure some of you may have thought about that. About 500 years ago in Bengal, on the banks of Ganges, in a beautiful town called Mayapur in the district of Nadia, a great spiritual renaissance took place. And it was a very interesting time in the history of the world. In Europe, there was another kind of renaissance taking place. In India, there were many social forces which were taking place. There was a lot of foreign conquest. The land of India was exposed for the first time to many different forces. And in the middle of that, you can also say that the Vedic culture or the deep spiritual culture of India was beginning to shift more towards materialism. The greatest gift of India actually has always been its spirituality. And not many people have deeply studied Indic traditions or the Vedas or Bhagavad Gita or this text here. This text was written about 5,000 years ago, approximately. It's older than any other major religious text of the world. Bhagavad Gita is approximately 5,000 years older. So the greatest gift of India has always been its spirituality. It has been the cradle of religion, you can say. Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, all came from India. So about 500 years ago, India was going through a period where its spirituality was under onslaught and being conquered by the material forces. And in that milieu, Sri Chaitanya, the personality in the middle, he appeared. And he was a spiritual revolutionary. He was a social reformer. He saw and he thought deeply that how can he benedict the people of this world? How can he create a spiritual revolution? Welcome. We are talking about these 5 personalities in this photograph. I'm just talking about the figure in the center, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he felt that there should be a universal principle which any living entity, and when I say any living entity, he actually meant even more than human beings, can be benedicted, can be delivered, can realize their highest potential of this idea that we are not this material body, but an eternal spirit soul. Sri Chaitanya deeply deliberated on this idea that we can actually realize our highest identity and our potential, not as a reactive mind, not as a temporary physical milieu which is going to change and which is going to perish, but as an eternal identity of the soul. So he deeply deliberated and he gave people a very rare, powerful, and at that time, you can say a very elite prayer or a mantra, which is in the Vedas. It appears in Atharva Veda, this particular mantra. But because of the hierarchical systems and rigid social structures, not everybody had access to it. Only a few people were privileged to chant this. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the holy name of God, it's all powerful, it's liberating, it's full of peace. In any tradition, you probably have seen that when you go to a temple or a church or a mosque, there is this prayer, either in the form of a mantra or in the form of a name of the deity, name of the divine. For example, when I was young and I used to go to my grandmother's house, everybody was chanting. My grandmother used to chant Om Namah Shivaya. And she introduced me to this mantra. And I remember we had holy saints and holy people come to our house. And they would, for hours, they would chant, welcome. Can everybody move forward a little bit as we have people come? So those who came late, I'm talking about this picture here and the 5 personalities in the middle. They are singing, dancing, and chanting, and who they are and what are they doing. Just giving a little introduction to that. So Sri Chaitanya said this Maha Mantra, this great mantra for peace, is for everybody. There is no distinction or discrimination of any kind whatsoever. And anybody who would chant this mantra, either in his mind or as an individual practice of prayer, or together with a lot of people, they will feel peace in their heart. And they will experience freedom from anxiety, from the mental ups and downs. And they will find a stable datum, a stable pivot or a datum which will allow them to pursue, as they're pursuing their material life, along with having a deep spiritual experience. So, Sri Chaitanya, his brother Nityananda, on the right in the blue, they began coming out of their house and going to the streets and chanting and loudly playing drums and cymbals and doing kirtan publicly, encouraging everyone to join without any discrimination whatsoever. And Sri Chaitanya went to the extent of saying that when we go to the street and we chant, then even the plants and the trees and the animals and the insects, they also benefit from this chanting. And they actually become delivered. And in that process of joyful chanting, they were joined by their senior and their superior, in some ways their teacher, Advaita Acharya in white. He was like a very deep and intelligent and senior scholar. He was a great devotee. He prayed, actually, that please send me a group of devotees with whom I can go and break down all social barriers. and perform this chanting. Somebody chanting alone may look a little weird. When it is done in a group, it's really powerful experience. I don't know how many of you have been in a kirtan where Hari plays his harmonium or Narahari plays his drum. And when there are a bunch of people together and this mantra is chanted, it's a very powerful and deeply illuminating experience. So it was Sri Chaitanya, Nityananda, Advaita, and they were joined by Srivas. Srivas was a householder. He had a family, he had many children, he had brothers, and he was the sole breadwinner of the family. But all night, every night, not just one night, every single night, all night, they would gather in this house and do kirtan. Then maybe they would take a little rest in the morning, and then they would go out on the streets and do kirtan. So Chaitanya asked Srivas one time. They were loving and enjoying his hospitality. Him, his wife, his maidservants, his family members, they were all engaged in kirtan night and day. So Chaitanya said, I am a monk. Nityananda is a monk. Advaita is retired. But you are young and you have a family. How would you maintain your family if you do kirtan with us all night and all day? And Srivas replied. And Chaitanya said, what does this mean? And Srivas said, he said, I will depend upon God. And if Krishna does not send me food for 3 days, then I, along with my family, will commit suicide. This was his depth of faith and conviction and love. One time, while they were doing kirtan in his house, in the middle of night, Srivas's son passed away. And the family members obviously started crying. And Srivas ran up to them and said, please stop crying. And the family members said, your son just passed away, he's not breathing. And he said, we all have to die. In our house, there is a loud kirtan going on. What could be more auspicious? I pray that all of us should die right now. And when Chaitanya heard about this, he brought his dead son back to life. He said, Srivas, with your devotion you have purchased me. And then finally Gadadhar was so attached to Sri Chaitanya that he took a vow that I will never be separated from Sri Chaitanya. So when Sri Chaitanya took sannyas and went to Jagannath Puri, Gadadhar went with him. And every day, they would do kirtan, they would do their prayers, they would do devotions together. And from this text, Gadadhar would read to Sri Chaitanya few hours every day. And they had one copy of this text. And that text gradually became soaked with Gadadhar's tears to the point that the ink would become illegible. And both Gadadhar and Chaitanya, they would sit together and they would just cry. And they would read about, in this text there are pastimes of Rama. The entire Ramayana is there. All the pastimes of Krishna is there. You have heard of Narsingha. His pastimes are there. You may have heard many stories, but in a very profound, poetic, rhyme and song way, this Bhagavatam depicts all those pastimes. Bhagavatam is considered one of the best poetry which came out of the Vedas. So these 5 personalities, they inundated the word or started a revolution of kirtan. Their idea was devotees should come together and sing and dance and pray together. And just by doing that, it will create an auspicious environment in this world which can bring peace, and we can avoid war. We worry about ecological crisis or warfare or fighting between nations. And Sri Chaitanya emphatically declared that the more we do kirtan together in this world, and if we go out on the streets and do kirtan, all of these social, economic, military anomalies and discord can be cured. First in our own heart. First in our own heart, and then in the world. So that's my little presentation about these 5 saints who, so we are together today because of them, because they encouraged that we should chant. You must have seen the statue of Swami Prabhupada. Swami Prabhupada was one of the foremost followers of Sri Chaitanya. Through a chain of teachers, as I said, Sri Chaitanya appeared 500 years ago. Swami Prabhupada appeared in 1896. And he left this world in 1977. And he thought that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread this kirtan in India. Now let me do something more revolutionary. So he got on a rickety-rackety cargo ship, very small ship. It was a cargo ship, it was not a cruise ship. And he came from Calcutta to Boston Harbor. It took him over a month. In that 1 month, he suffered heart attacks and chest pains. He wrote in his diary, he would maintain a diary. Good idea to write a diary. He wrote in his diary one day that I don't know, but I'm not able to move today. I'm not able to move. He was how old at that time? He was 69 years old. So if anybody is looking for some late life inspiration or midlife crisis or young life crisis, he had $8 with him. He was 69. He wrote in his diary when he landed in Boston, he said, I had no idea whether to go left or to go right. So Prabhupada took that message of kirtan, of just coming together and chanting the Krishna's name and spreading it all over the world. So our main process, our main method to bring individual peace and to bring world peace is to get together, is to come together in fellowship, in love, in friendship, and just chant kirtan. Prabhupada said, when you become hungry, then you should take a little prasadam, a little spiritual food. So that is our method, and that was started by these 5 personalities here. It was carried forward by devotees, and now saints like Narahari, Hari, Thara, Prema, Marisha, and many other saints are now taking it forward.
You mean sinners?
No, saints. Okay, devotees. So my time is up, Shrestha. What should I do? Questions and comments? Any questions anyone has or anything?
I thought you said 5,000 at first and then 500. Which one was that?
So Krishna was 5,000 years ago, and he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. And also, this text was compiled just after Krishna left this world. And 500 was Chaitanya.
So, you were saying you were going to tell us like
Right.
And I have one more question about it. Like, can our devotee be bigger than the other devotee? Like, in terms of position, or I mean, like, yeah, can you say like this devotee is more devoted or than the other one? Can you say like that?
Okay. So the first question is, why is he called Mahaprabhu? So in this tradition, it's a very, very sweet tradition. And I don't know if you have heard, sometimes devotees would address each other as Prabhu, right? It's a very sweet way of addressing. When I first encountered it, I was like, wow, this is so sweet. When somebody called me Prabhu, I was looking the other way. I thought maybe somebody standing in the back, you know. Sri Chaitanya was such a spiritual luminary. He was so ecstatic in love of God all the time that his spiritual potency was recognized by everybody. He was a spiritual prodigy. At the age of 16, he opened his own school. He learned all the Vedas. Very early on his life, he left everything, and at the age of 24, he took sannyas. You know, sannyas? Sannyas means to basically give up complete association with matter. So he was called Mahaprabhu. Devotees would keep this word for him. And then, Surabhi, your second question, could you please elaborate a little?
So there are so many devotees. Can people say like this is more close to God, or the bigger devotee than that devotee?
Uh-huh. Well, there is first of all no distinction. Every living entity, according to Gita, is a part and parcel of Krishna. So we're all spiritually equal. Yes? Some may display their spiritual nature more than others. And those who do that, they always take the most humble position. But others may recognize it and deal with that person as such. Like that. Okay. But usually there is no distinction or difference. We're all part and parcel, children of God, brothers and sisters. But if somebody distinguishes themselves by their spiritual commitment and dedication and qualities, then naturally people appreciate that. Thank you for asking. Any other questions or comments anyone has? Okay. Shrishta, please.
Announcements. So thank you very much, Premvilas. It's been a